Even though inventory system tutorials for Godot exist, almost none of them show you how to actually save your inventory. Which is why in today's tutorial, not only will you be able to create and save an inventory, but also collect items from containers and save each one's data. To begin, let's make sure that we have a grid-based texture for our inventory, a select cursor that shows what item we're focused on, and then a highlighted box that will be on our panel for when we're displaying the information. We cannot program until we have a lot of nodes set up, so we'll begin by going into our inventory. We are going to add a texture rect, and this will be the part that is our inventory. Make sure it is set above the color rect so it's not beneath it. So we're going to drag and drop this texture here, and under stretch mode we're going to set it to tile, and then we're going to navigate to layout, transform, and under here I'm going to set it to 160 by 128. This way we have 5 columns and 4 rows. And I'm just going to move this in a little bit more. Okay, and now we need to add a panel. So we'll go over here, add a panel, and we'll drag it above here, and we'll call this an information panel. Then we're going to add a use button. So just want to add a normal button, and we'll rename it to use button. And this will allow us to use whatever item we have in focus. So let's set up our information panel here. We're going to drag it out here so we have some more space. And then we're going to bring the use button below. What we'll do next is add 2 rich text labels. This one will be our item name, and then we'll duplicate this by pressing Ctrl D, and we will name this one to item description. So we'll drag this one over here as well as this one. So you'll notice when I type in name, the text is very large and it tends to overflow as indicated by the scroll bar. So you'll want to go under layout, transform, and we'll set this to scale 0.5. We'll drag it over here, and we'll do the same for our item description. Actually, we can just remove this, duplicate it, and then rename it, and perfect. So we can drag this below it and type this is an item description, and we can just expand this over here. We'll want to do some reorganizing, so I'll just bring this up as well as for the description, bring this back down, and we can save. Now lastly, we're going to want to add another texture rect, and this will be for our highlighted item. So I'll do item backdrop. We'll bring it over here. Now for our selected item texture here, we'll want to drag it over, so bring it here. And then we're going to want to duplicate this. So Control D, and this will be our item icon. And this is what's going to display for our item that we have selected. We can save this. So that's all for our setup. Let's go and create a crate. So this crate will be a static, body 2D, and we'll rename it to crate. This will be any container that we're going to use for looting for our example. So as you saw, we'll just add in a collision shape. Then I'm going to add an area 2D, so we detect the player. We'll call it player detection. And then underneath that, we will add another collision shape. And then lastly, we're going to want to add a sprite. And I'll show you a neat trick. So under texture, we'll click this bottom drop down arrow, and we will go to Atlas texture. We'll expand this by clicking on it, and we will go to our textures. So as you see here, I have a tile set called props, and this just represents all of the props that are available in our game. So I'll just drag this over here, then edit region, and I will click on snap mode, pixel snap, and then I'm going to put in the dimensions here, and close. And as you can see, we have a crate. So I'll just set the collisions for this, set it to this. And then for our player detection, we'll want to do some kind of rectangle. You could also do a circle, it is completely up to you. And I'll just change the dimensions and we can save. So under scenes, we'll go under this and create a folder called interactables. Completely up to you, you can call it crates, but we'll just save this as crate under here. And perfect. So next up, we're going to add a script, but we will not be using this for anything more than just storing some variables. And then later, a function that we will add later into the video. So export variable looted bool is equal to false. Export variable crate ID string is equal to blank. And then finally, we'll do export variable resource file resource is equal to null. And this will store what item we have inside of this crate. So we can just save this. And we'll add this code in here before we forget. So if lootbox tracker dot crate states dot has crate ID looted is equal to lootbox tracker dot crate states crate ID. So this item here does not exist yet, but it's going to be an autoload, a new autoload that we're going to create, and we'll be calling some different parts of it that we will be using later. I'll add in one more function. It'll be called save state, and we'll do lootbox tracker dot crate states crate ID is equal to looted. So this will make sure that every time the player interacts with this crate, it is going to call this function, which saves the crate state. Now let's move on to resources. So resources will act as our sort of node that will allow us to access information about different items. So over here, I'm going to right click, create new resource, and I'll just select a base resource. And we'll call this item. So under this, we're going to double click, and you'll notice we don't have anything regarding details. We'll need to add a script. So under new GD script, we'll click this and then open it. So here we'll add some export variables. Export variable item icon texture 2D is equal to null. And then we're going to add export variable item name string is equal to blank. And then finally, export variable item description string is equal to blank. Now, as you can see, this is updated and we're able to fill out all these contents. So we will just create several items. So I'll make cheese, for example, and we'll call this slice of cheese. And we'll put for the description, a delicious slice of cheese. Alright, and now we're going to drag our texture. So under our items folder for our textures, we're just going to drag the cheese. Now if you wanted to, if you for example had a big tile set of items, you can just do Atlas texture, open this, and then find your item of interest. So we could just drag this in here, and we would just select what we want, like this for example. But we don't need to do that since we already have an individual texture for the cheese. So we'll just replace this, clear it, and we'll just put in the cheese here, and we'll save. I'll create 2 more items before we continue on, just so we have some kind of variety. So now we're going to go back to the player, and we're going to add a couple more things. So I'll just hide the inventory for right now, and we're going to want to go under the UI and then add a new child. This will be called, it'll just be like a dialogue, a control, but we'll rename it to dialog box. Then under this, we'll want to add a panel, and then we will add a rich label text. So we'll take this. Oh, first we'll want to make sure that our dialog box stretches for the total canvas. And then we're going to bring this panel down. We can actually just do this and then scale upwards. There we go. And we can set our anchors. And then we can bring down our rich text label here and put test text here. And we'll just drag it out. So it seems just about fine here. Save this. So to read this text, we're going to use an animation player. And we'll do text reader for the name. I'll bring this down and we're going to create an animation and call it readout text. Okay, so here's a cool trick. Under the rich text label, we can find under display text the visible ratio. So what does this mean? Well, if we drag this down, you'll notice that the text disappears by character and then reappears. So how we can use this is from the start, aka 0, we can put visible ratio set to 0, and we can set reset tracks to make sure that it stays at 0 in the beginning. And then at the very end, we can set this to 1. Oh, wait, this needs to be set to 0. There we go. So now you'll see it reads out the text. Now this is going to be based off of your time rather than the size of the text. You can do this to read out based on the size, but it would be better if you did it in code. Now if you would be interested in me showing you that, let me know down in the comments and I can do that kind of adjustment in another video. So next up, we're going to go under add track, then call method track, and we'll connect to the player. We're not going to do anything yet since the player does not have any specific functions we can use him for, but we will now move on to our interact box that the player will have. So for the player, we're going to want to create an area 2D, and we'll call this interact area 2D. And under this, we're going to add a collision. And so we'll want to add, say, a square. And we'll bring this out to here. And we'll want to, I'll actually bring this out a little bit more. And then I'm going to set the sprite to this one, so he's facing the correct direction. Now, this is just a very quick way of having the player be able to interact with things, but once again, if you'd like to see a more in-depth player controller in another video, please let me know down in the comments. But for now, we're going to connect this to body entered right here, and we'll just leave it empty for now, but we'll come back. And next we're going to want to add a timer, and this is to make sure that our player does not interact with something too many times. And so when this times out, which we will actually connect right now, it'll make sure to reactivate the player's ability to interact with things. Now we are getting very close to actually programming, but we're going to want to add a new script, and this will be our loot box tracker that we were previously talking about. We'll open this, and this part's pretty simple. All you have to do is do var create states dictionary is equal to these curly brackets. This is all you need to do for now, but this may change in the future depending on different videos. Okay, now time for the coding proportion. So we'll first want to navigate to our inventory, which we actually have to create. So let's create our inventory here. I'll capitalize it, and then under the folder, we'll want to put it under menus and create. So for this part, we're going to set our rows and columns. So var row limit integer is equal to 4, export variable column limit integer is equal to 5. And next, we're going to add our icon size. So export variable icon size vector to I is equal to vector to I 32 by 32. So you may not recognize this, but this means we're only going to be using integers for our coordinates. So the I, as can be obviously seen, is for integer. This is to prevent any kind of floating numbers that are unnecessary and that will cause our grid to be, our items to be incorrectly placed inside of the grid. So now we'll continue on. And that's it for our variables for now. Alright, now we're going to move on. So we'll remove these comments and we're going to add in create cursor, update inventory, and set process to true. And the reason why we're doing this is just to make sure that our game does not think it's paused, and so we're going to have our process set to true and we can move along until we pause it. So as you can see, Godot is screaming at us, so let's add in our cursor function. And then we're going to add update cursor position, which is another function that we'll be adding in a moment. So we'll do function update cursor position, var x is equal to selected index modular column limit times icon size dot x. And we're just going to copy and paste this with some minor changes right here. So we'll do y, and we're going to set the modular to backslash to divide, and then we'll set this icon size to y. And then selection cursor dot position is equal to these x and y coordinates. Then we're going to do update item info. Here we go, which is our next function. Function update inventory. So this will refresh our inventory every time things change. So we'll do for child in inventory backdrop dot get children if child not equal to selection cursor child dot qq free. Then we'll do var inventory is equal to game manager dot get inventory. For I in range, inventory dot size, we'll do var item is equal to inventory I. Var icon is equal to texture rec dot new. Icon dot texture is equal to item dot item icon. Icon dot expand mode is equal to texture rect dot expand ignore size. Then icon dot size is equal to icon size. Icon dot position is equal to vector 2. We'll just expand this. I modular division column limit times icon size dot x, and then we'll do I divided by column limit times icon size dot y, and that is it. Then we'll want to update our inventory backdrop dot add child icon, then update cursor position. Perfect. So these will be the inputs we'll be using to navigate our inventory. Feel free to pause this part of the video and just grab this code. And then finally, we're going to connect our use button right here. Click pressed, and we'll go to our inventory, connect, and I'm pretty sure we don't need to use a process here, so we'll just get rid of this. And then we'll do var inventory is equal to game manager dot get inventory if selected index is greater than equal to 0 and selected index is less than inventory dot size. Inventory dot remove at selected index, and then selected index is equal to clamp selected index 0 inventory dot size -1, then update inventory. So essentially we're using up the item here, so we're moving it at the selected index. Feel free to connect any functions if you're feeling crafty about the items that you have, but otherwise that'll be it for this part. But now we're going to move on to our game manager. So for our game manager, we're gonna want to add a new variable. This will be our inventory. So var inventory array is equal to a blank array. And we're gonna add several new functions. So function append item, item resource returns void, inventory.append item, and then function get inventory will return an array, and this will obviously return our inventory. Save that. So now we're going to add a new section to our save. So we'll go under here and we'll do var inventory paths array, and we'll do string is equal to blank array. For item in inventory, if item.resource path does not equal to blank, we'll do inventory paths.append item.resource path. Then we'll do save.set value inventory, that'll be our category, items, which will be our array, and then inventory paths. There we go. And now we're going to do crates. So for crate ID in lootbox tracker dot crate states dot keys, save dot set value, put it under category crates, crate ID, lootbox tracker dot crate states, and then we'll put it under crate ID. And should be it. So obviously we're having an error because we have not set our lootbox tracker just yet. So under project settings, we'll want to go under input, globals, and navigate the folder here, go to auto loads, click on lootbox tracker, and then we'll add it and we'll save. So it'll take a moment before it sets in. In the meanwhile, let's navigate to our load game save, or load game function, and we'll go below here And we're going to load in our inventory. So inventory.clear. I'll go down here. Var inventory paths is equal to save.getValue. Inventory items. And then a blank array to indicate the type or the default. And then for path in inventory paths, var item is equal to load path. If item, as in if the item is true or exists, inventory.append, then item. And next up will be our crates. So we'll do, scroll down, lootbox tracker.crate states.clear for crate ID and save.get section keys crates. Var looted is equal to save.getValue crates crate ID, and then the default is false. And then lootbox tracker dot crate states, then we'll set to crate ID is equal to looted, and that will set all the values for each crate that we set. I'm just gonna move this really quick to this position just so it makes it more readable, and that should be it. So finally, we're gonna want to move on to our player for the code. So we're gonna go all the way up, and we're gonna start with our variables. So we're gonna want to add onReady variable interact area 2D is equal to interact area 2D. onReady variable UI text, which is our rich text label, is equal to UI/dialog, and it's right there. And then we'll do onReady variable text reader, which is our animation player, is equal to text reader. Then we'll do variable dialog box is a control, is set to our dialog box right there. And then next up, we're going to do our interact timer. It's equal to interact timer. Then inventory control is equal to inventory. And then lastly, our interact collision, which we will toggle for its disabled state, is equal to that. I accidentally repeated the same variable, and there we go. So we'll also add in two more. So we'll do is reading bool is equal to false, and then var finished text bool is equal to false as well. So we're going to set some ready function, or some variables for the ready function. So interact collision should be set for its disabled, set to true. Dialog box dot visible is equal to false. Inventory dot visible is also equal to false. We'll save that here. Okay, next up, we'll add some functions. Function toggle finished text. Finished text is equal to not finished text. That's our first toggle. The second one will be toggle reading, and is reading does not equal to, or is equal to not is reading. There we go. We can save that. So before we continue to the physics process part, we're going to want to go to project settings. Under input map, we'll want to add a new action, and we'll call it interact. And under here, we'll just add in like E or enter, and that'll be for our interact button. So this part's going to get a bit hairy, but just make sure that you notice what's being set. So we'll do if action is pressed for this part, and not is reading. And then down here, we'll do if input.isAction just pressed interact, and not is reading interact collision dot disabled is equal to false. If input dot is action just released interact, and then and not is reading interact collision dot disabled is equal to true. So then under here we'll do if finished text and is reading and input dot get action strength is interact. We'll do dialog box dot visible is equal to false. Oh, that's definitely not what we want. And then is reading is set to false. Then finished text is also set to false. And then if not reading and inventory dot visible is equal to false, then we'll allow for all of these functions here, which allow our player to move and interact. So for our animation, I'm going to move down here, and I'm just going to copy and paste some of the changes here. Oh, this is for animation right here. So I'll explain a little bit. So we're essentially rotating our interact area 2D to be able to shift in the correct orientation based on how the player moves. So for example, if he's moving left, the thing is gonna go left, and if it goes right, goes right. And it's really not necessary, but just you can copy this if you are following the step by step. Okay, next up, we're going to add function readout text reader dot play readout text, and then we're going to do function parse UI text item name string looted bool, and then we'll do dialog dot visible is equal to true, and we'll just do this very basic text reading thing. So UI text dot text is equal to you came across a, and then it'll just be whatever the item name is. Else, if the item has been looted from the crate, it's going to do UI text dot text is that text is equal to there is nothing inside because you've already looted it. There we go. Save that. Forgot to add in dialog box here. Save that. Okay, and now under our interact area 2D, area 2D body entered, we'll do interact collision dot disabled is equal to true. So we're toggling it off. Parse UI text. Then we're going to include our body dot resource file dot item name, and then body dot looted. And then next we're going to do readout text. So it's going to grab all that information and then read it out. Then if not body dot looted, we are going to take the item that it has and append it to our inventory. Resource file inventory dot update inventory, and then body dot looted is equal to true. Then if body dot has method save state, body dot save state, and there we go. And then we'll do here interact collision dot disabled is equal to true. Save that. So I actually realized we're not going to be using this for this video. We won't need to for our dialog box, so you can actually get rid of this and then disconnect and just remove this. and we won't have to worry about that for now. So now we're gonna want to go to our world scene, and I'll just hide this, and we'll want to add in our crate. So for our crate, we'll just drag it out here, and we'll want to make sure this seems to be a bug that Godot sometimes has, where it seemingly does not show the details here on the right. So I'm just gonna try and see. There we go. So what seems to work is if you completely copy and then paste the code again into the script and you load back into the world, it'll show the details on the right. So from here, we're gonna want to set a couple things. We'll go down to resources, and then we'll want to drag and drop, for example, our cheese into this crate. And for crate ID, really, you can name it anything, just so long as it isn't sharing the same name with another crate. The loading script will know which crate to go to, and it will associate the data with that ID. So the best one I like to use is just the name of the item and then underscore its integer. So this one is number 1. Then you can duplicate this a couple more times. So this one, for example, we can throw in a health potion. This will be crate 2. And then this last one will do bread. This one will be crate 3. And we'll save this. So I just realized I forgot to put in the complete name for this function. I went under the player node and then under the script here, and I scrolled down to this function, and I just made sure that Game Manager had the function set to append item here, and it won't give you the error. So for some reason, if you go over to inventory as well, you'll notice I accidentally had this autofill to item icon display, but we just want item icon and it will correctly set the data. Now we'll want to go back to our text reader and go to read out text. From here we'll want to add in our toggle reading, and then at here we'll want to do our toggle finish reading or toggle finish text. Oh, and this actually leads us to our last thing that we need to do, which is our collision layers. So over here, you'll notice that our player shares the same collision layer as our interact area 2D. Now, this causes issues because it means the area 2D here could accidentally get triggered by the player. So under here, we're going to want to set this to 2, and we'll toggle off the 1. Then we're going to go and edit layer names. We'll set this one to interactables, and then we'll set this one to world. And then we'll go over to crate, and we will set the collision here to 2 as well. And this will allow us to not be detected by the player. So now I'm testing the game. I'm going to be walking around. We'll head over to this crate. Don't mind the Z index here. And we'll go over to this crate, loaf of bread, and then we'll go to this one. We get a health potion. Now if we press escape, we have access to these items here. And I realized we forgot to set our cursor, so I can go ahead and do that in a moment. But in the meantime, we can go to our save menu, save game. Now let's go ahead and move. We'll move around, and then we're going to, let's say, eat this loaf of bread here. So now it goes away. We don't have this loaf of bread here anymore. And so we can go to our save menu and load the game. So we're back at the same position that we once were, and we have our loaf of bread again. And so what we can do to fix up that kind of error that we had was we'll go over to inventory, and we'll drag and drop our texture here. We have that set. And then we're just going to make a little bit more of an adjustment for our name. So we'll want to drag this out all the way over here, and we're pretty much all done. So also you can see when we try to open up these crates again after we load in another game, we load and we have no way of actually getting those items again because we already have them. And also you can see we're able to scroll through our inventory here. So now it works. Thank you all for watching and following along with this tutorial. If you found this to be informative or helped you in any way, be sure to leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. It helps hack the algorithm. And if you have any more questions or problems regarding this tutorial, please let me know as well in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video.